Hey, everybody, it's Catherine Ely from the Imperfect Thriving podcast, where I help you uncover what has been holding you back, exactly what you want your life to look like, and the daily imperfect action to get you there. You are listening to the Million Pound Mission podcast. Here's your host, my friend, Adam Shibley.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of the Million Pound Mission Podcast. It's your buddy Adam, the PhD, the previously heavy dude, and this is episode number 364. We're talking about using new tech to improve our health with Dr. Grace Hameister, and this is going to light you guys up, especially if you are tech nerds like me. You're going to really enjoy this. First, I want to give a shout out to Catherine Ely from the Imperfect Thriving podcast. She did the intro for the show today. Go and check her podcast out, Imperfect Thriving, wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, quick reminder, this is a big week, y'all. We have two very special Keto Brick giveaways happening this week. This will be the last week that you can participate. Let's see, on Monday, we will announce both winners. So the first way you can win some Keto Bricks is if you screenshot any episode of the Million Pound Mission podcast, share it out on your Instagram story, and tag my account at Million Pound Mission. You can do that up to once per day and be entered to win a free variety pack. That's 6 Keto Bricks, and all that deliciousness will be delivered to your doorstep. That's the first way you can win. We'll announce the winner 1 week from today on my Instagram account. Also, our big month Keto Brick giveaway is going to happen 1 week from today on Monday. So this is the last week. Anytime you purchase a Keto Brick from ketobrick.com, make sure that you enter the promo code MPM, like Million Pound Mission, MPM. That will get you entered to win a full month's supply of the delicious Keto Brick. Check them out at ketobrick.com. If you order some, I recommend the peanut butter, the toasted almond coconut, and the chocolate malt flavors. Those are like the triangle of Keto Brick deliciousness doom for me personally. I consume Keto Bricks every single day. It's perfect ketogenic nutrition, excellent macros, clean sourced materials and ingredients. So check them out, ketobrick.com. Okay, tech nerds, you are going to really enjoy this episode. I'm always searching around for the latest tech trends in the health space, especially. Now, I enjoy business tech and get into all that cool Apple products and things like that, but I'm especially interested in health tech. And today I'm bringing in someone that is out there applying the best new health tech to serve her clients. Dr. Grace is a licensed and board-certified doctor of chiropractic and advanced cold laser specialist. I said laser, ladies and gentlemen. If that doesn't get you fired up, I don't know what will. She's also a former Olympic level rhythmic gymnast, a world champion water skier, and a post-grad assistant performing cancer research in immunology. So a very vast background. Now, Dr. Grace is adamant about always being armed with the most current high-tech medical equipment and scientifically valid modern health solutions. Dr. Grace integrates the best tools available for the most effective individual outcomes and consistent clinical results, AKA, she's kind of a big deal. She's an expert in online tech, health, all of that stuff. She is just very, very knowledgeable. And we dive into that in this episode. We cover the benefits of cold laser therapy and how this technology is different than red light and infrared light therapy. That I was personally kind of confused about that. I'm like, what's the difference between these two different things? And she dives into that. We talk about the health technology that she thinks more people need to be using to improve their overall health. And then we get into a bunch of scenarios. I ask her for solutions, both natural and tech solutions for things like joint pain, hormones, and fat loss. This is a really good episode. Dr. Grace is somebody that is bursting onto the scene. I cannot wait to introduce you to her. So without any further delay, let's dive into episode number 364. We're using new tech to improve our health with Dr. Grace Hameister. Dr. Grace, welcome to the Million Pound Mission podcast. How are we doing today, my friend?
Hey, I'm really good. It's great to see your face and hear your voice.
I'm really excited for this. I like your vibe. I like your energy. And the more I've dug into your background and your info, I'm really excited because I feel like you're going to fill some knowledge gaps that I have and that our audience has, and answer a lot of questions that all of us that are out there looking to get healthy and improve our lifestyle at this point. I feel like you're going to really be able to help us out today. So no pressure.
Thanks. Oh, not at all.
This is all your wheelhouse, Dr. Grace.
Olympic Training Center, none of this stuff is even whatever.
Well, okay. I want to start there. You mentioned the Olympic Training Center. Yeah. I want to talk about the story of you being an Olympic level athlete and how that led to you making that transition into eventually being a medical professional. Because I'm somebody who loves to push my body. I love to, really see what I've got. So I love it when my medical professionals that I lean on have been in that like competitive spirit zones
and have the mindset and the understanding what it takes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Let's do your story.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, I grew up in Wisconsin, a little town called Elkhart Lake. And I was the first ever Olympic level rhythmic gymnast in the state. So rhythmic gymnastics is the one with the big long ribbon, hoop, ball, and you do floor exercises, toss them in the air, do a bunch of stuff underneath it, and have flexy, bendy body, flexibility, a lot of that kind of thing. And I was the first one. I have pictures of me on the stadium or on the podium. And there's no one else on the podium because I was the only one that was doing it elite level, which is kind of funny. And from being in that position, I qualified to try out for nationals and go to the Olympic Training Center. And in Colorado Springs, Colorado,
yeah.
when you compete and you are at a certain ranking, then you can, have an invitation to go. And I got to go there 2 years in a row. And as it stood, because the sport was so young, I mean, it was first in the Olympics in 1984, even though, Eastern Bloc countries have been doing it for eons, basically. Bulgarians, Russians, they're beasts. They still are. And so my little Midwestern self was going up against them, and I'm like, wow, I'm not doing what they're doing. But I caught up real quick because my coach didn't even know what to do, like we were all in it together, just figuring it out. So regardless, at the grand age of 16, I decided to retire because I had to either choose between going to college or going to the Olympics, because at the time my family could afford either one or the other, Midwestern, so since I couldn't get a scholarship into college, because there wasn't anything available at that time, I chose to retire. And then I had my first boyfriend ever when I was 17.
Congrats.
18, yeah. And he was a water skier. So we joined a water ski team together. And I ended up going pro because I was discovered. And he didn't, but that's okay. We were still friends. Everything was good. But then I got recruited to go and ski overseas in Italy. I had a job water skiing at Cypress Gardens in Florida and in SeaWorld in San Diego. And I won the world championships doing doubles in 1993 doing that. So that was just like a whole nother like bizarre facet of athletic career that just opened up because of my gymnastic skills. And then once I was in the water ski world, then I was at the end of my college days, basically. So I would water ski in the summer times. That was my summer job.
Nice.
I would water somewhere. So when I realized that the trajectory that I was taking in school was not what I wanted to do, meaning I always knew I wanted to do biology and science. I always wanted to be in doctor land. It's like when I learned about it, I felt like I already knew it, which was so crazy, like how the universe kind of lets you know that you're on the right path. You're like, oh yeah, this is easy. I know this stuff. I've seen this before. And I'd never seen it in my life. I'm like, come on. But it made sense. So I was water skiing in SeaWorld, and it was summertime, and I was about to go back to the University of Minnesota, Minneapolis, which is where I graduated from. And I was going to go into dental school, and I worked in a dental office, and I was there for like 2 hours, and it felt like I was there for like 2 days. I'm like, oh,
that's what I was going to say. I'm like, this probably didn't go well.
I'm like, no, I can't do this. I can't. And but then I was at a standstill because I'm like, okay, I did not want to become an MD because I've seen that industry. My father was an EMT. We had a lot of doctors who are friends. I didn't want to be basically a whore to the system where you work 72 hours on and 5 hours off. I'm like, my body can't do that. And I don't want to be in a hospital setting like that. So that's why I didn't choose to become an MD. And so I thought, well, at least as a dentist, I can have my own business and we'll see how that works. And it didn't go very well. So I was sitting and talking with my boss at SeaWorld, and he was in charge of all of the water skiers. And they also did what was called at that time the Bud Pro Tour. The Bud Pro Tour, Budweiser Pro Tour, was would tour around the country, and guys would compete doing, like jumping, slalom, and something else. I don't remember. But regardless, this guy, my boss, is like, you should go check out this chiropractor. He's in Thousand Oaks. And from the Midwest, I'm like, oh, chiropractor. Those guys don't know anything. They're not real scientists. Like all the things that you hear here. And this was like, it was in the early 90s. So there wasn't a lot of information out about how effective chiropractors truly are and how scientifically valid they truly are and all these things. So, and I was immersed in a completely different world. I had no concept of what, a chiro can do. So I went and visited this guy anyway, because I was interested, and my boss knew him really well and he had great accolades. And so his name was Dr. Terry Wyman. He's in Thousand Oaks, and if anyone's in Thousand Oaks, if you don't go see Dr. Terry, there's something wrong with you, because that man is one of the best on the planet. He's the reason I am a chiro today. But when I saw him, I just had this flood of a memory that I completely had just taken out of my head because I was competing and forgot. But my doubles partner, doubles is like pairs ice skating, but only the guy is attached to the boat by a rope that's on his waist, so his hands are free. So you're doing these lifts on the water. Well, we competed doing that. And my doubles partner was also a jumper, and he was doing a Mobius, which is a full twisting backflip on his water skis. He lost his air position sense, landed on his head, and snapped his neck forward, and hurt himself so badly that he couldn't even put his finger and his thumb together to make like an okay sign on both sides. It hurt that bad, which I now know is a C6 rude. However, at the time, all I cared about was, well, crap. We only have 3 weeks and we're supposed to compete in the world championships, and this dude can't even like lift me now. So what are we going to do? So we decided to go to the Bud Pro Tour anyway, where he was going to compete, even though he couldn't compete because he was hurt. And that's where they had a chiropractor, a physical therapist, and a massage therapist, and an MD all working at each site. It was the first time I'd ever seen integrative medicine in action. And this is as an athlete. So now, fast forward, I walk into this guy's office, and lo and behold, it was the same dude. I was like, oh my God,
no way.
Wait a second. You're the guy who fixed my doubles partner. And he's like, what are you talking about? After he was worked on by Dr. Terry, a week later, his hands were fine. 2 weeks later, we competed and we won.
Wow.
That's when I was first exposed to what athletics, integrative medicine, and chiropractic and functional medicine can do.
Wow, that is such a cool story. And it seems like you're somebody that likes to get after it and get outside of your comfort zone in life and then learn and excel. Like you did that with rhythmic gymnastics, took it to an extremely high level that many people will never even dream of achieving. Same thing with the water skiing. And now you've shifted that to your health practice, and you're diving, you're dipping your toe in the waters of podcasting and online entrepreneurship and things like that. Like you're just driving forward, and you're that type of person that you make your mark on whatever you choose to do. So I think that
Thank you. I'd like to feel that way about it too. That, and I've come to understand a way to define this now. I couldn't define it when I was younger because I didn't have the words for it yet. I didn't have enough experience to, but I just really, truly embrace the unknown at this point. That's where the magic happens, man. The thing that I don't know about, that's the place that I'm going to find the coolest stuff that I've never seen before. And I'm going to bring all the information I've had with me. I'm not going to just jump off a cliff and just be like, hey, it's the unknown world. It's not about that. But what it is when you're given the opportunity, like when I was hired to go for water skiing, the guy was like, hey, you want to go to Italy? And I'm like, okay. And it just went. And I didn't try to get my passport. I didn't look and see how much I get paid. I didn't know what it was like in Italy to live there. I'm like, I just got on the damn plane, and I actually have done that in my doctoring career too with a client. She's from Africa, and I did the same thing. I just got on her plane and went with her. and it's just because I know that the universe has my back. I know my skills are so solid that I am there because I will make an impact and a positive difference by the things that I know. And so I just go.
That's definitely something that I noticed just from interacting with you a few times. I can sense your confidence in your skill set, and that gives me confidence in somebody that deals with and looks to work with health professionals like yourself. Like, I'm like, oh man, she is confident in her message. And I'm, and I'm in that same space. Like when I launched this show, it was frustrating for me. And that's a bit of podcasting advice I'll give you, since you're getting ready to launch your show, is like, your confidence in your own message is at such a high level, and you know exactly how much of an impact you can make. It will be super annoying as you do your first year of podcasting and you're like, only 50 people listen to that episode. I know I could be impacting more people. It'll be frustrating, but like with your skill set, with your personality, you stick with it, the masses will be impacted. So on a side note, that's the podcasting tip of the day.
And I agree, but my skin is so damn thick at this point for choosing alternative and integrative medicine that I'm like, fuck, I don't care. I'll see, people will find me. And I can't tell you, every single time I go into a situation that may have a new patient that's never really heard about what I've done, which is still shocking to me that people haven't seen more of, what the body is capable of through natural and integrative methods. I'm constantly having to inform, dispel the, I would even say irresponsible and unknown veil that's put over our profession. Yeah. I mean, there's been so much over the last 20 years that I can tell you that I'm like, dude, as soon as I start my podcast, that's going to be gravy for me. Like, because you know what? I don't have to argue with anybody. I can just tell my story. And if they want to listen, they can. If they don't, I don't have to explain myself. Very true. But the ones that will listen, I can guarantee you it's going to be life-changing. And it will be for me too, because I can have that impact. So yeah, I'm not worried about that.
Good.
Bring it. Yeah.
Good. Thick skin.
That's right.
Now, one thing I know about you is that you are diving deep on science. You like to explore the nooks and crannies of what's out there, what's new, what can you use to improve people's health. What piece of health tech is out there that you feel like more people should be looking at using just to improve any aspect of health? Just some sort of tech that you're like, ooh, I'm really big on this and not enough people know about it.
Yeah, well, a huge game changer for me. First of all, you're absolutely correct. My degree was in psychology. I got a double major in bio, and then I did a year of cancer research and immunology. So I did all that before even going out to the West Coast to become a chiropractor and go through the entire medical thing there too. So wow. I am really giant on making sure that I talk with efficacy. I talk about things that have been studied staunchly in science and are shown to have clinical value in ways that are not just, snake oil or, I think I can find that on Amazon for cheaper. Yeah, no, you can't. It's a medical device. You're not supposed to find it cheaper on Amazon, but some things you can, other things you cannot. And one of the things that you cannot or should not that I'm about to talk about is the cold laser therapy. That was a game changer for me. It completely changed the trajectory of my practice, of my perspective of what the body's capable of. The guys at Erconia Medical are the ones that designed the first FDA-approved cold laser that's used in the United States, and I still back their product. It's one of the best that there is, one of the best in the world, honestly. And what it's done for me in my practice on physically, it gets to your body at the cellular level and helps you heal like Wolverine if you have any cuts or inflammation or anything like that, from the cellular level on out. But then it also makes your neurology attenuate or work better too. Like I had a little girl, she was 3 years old. This is early in my career. And she had a speech problem. Everybody thought that she was autistic at that time. And her parents were like, no, we don't want to go through this whole autism thing. We think it's something else. And so I checked her cranial nerves and did some work with her, and we would play the ABC game where she would just, mimic the things that I was saying. And I would use the laser in very specific parts of her brain, like Broca's area, which helps produce words, and Wernicke's area, which helps with speech and that kind of thing. And after 2 treatments, the mom called me And there's always a good and a bad when the parents call your doctor, like as me, getting a recall, I'm like, oh Christ, I hope this is a good one, because sometimes you have side effects from care,
Right.
So I'm like, okay, was this good? And she seemed like really like, I need to talk to you. So I was like, oh, okay. Hi, what happened? How you doing? tell me stories. And she was so excited because she was like literally almost crying. And then of course I started crying, and she said, her daughter actually said, I want to talk to daddy. And she'd never said a word before in her life.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's that kind of powerful stuff that this thing is capable of it. But you need to know how to use it too. It's not just like shining a light in the shower. There's a lot to it. That's one piece that's been a game changer for me. A more recent one that's a game changer that I'm actually been talking about on my podcast we're talking about. It's called Alpha Stim. And for athletes and for people with anxiety, this is a device. It's about the size of your iPhone. And if you have anxiety, you clip it, these clips to your ears. And it's actually one of the newest devices that's been used for over 20 years inside of the VA for veterans coming back with PTSD and severe anxiety issues. They get treated with this, and it has shown in solid scientific studies to have a better effect than taking the drugs that are used to help decrease anxiety. So that, as well as pain reduction, that's another thing that it's really good for. So if you have, a new workout injury and you just need to chill it out a little bit, between that and the laser, those are awesome.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, and hyperbarics.
You have so many resources.
How many do you want me to do? I know.
All right.
Hyperbarics.
So
okay. Yeah.
I got questions.
Go.
With the cold laser,
yeah,
is that the same as like red light? Like, I feel like there's a confusion between like infrared, red light, cold laser. Like, what are the differences between those things?
Excellent. The difference is a true laser, that's actually stands for light amplification by the stimulated emission of radiation, laser. Now, you compare that with LED, which is light emitting diode. They are two different kinds of science. It's all about what it can create physiologically. So the cold laser itself, true laser, the light beams come out of the diode that's on there in a straight pattern. It'll go straight from here to the moon. It comes out in exactly the same way. In an LED, it disperses and dispenses. So the reason that the laser is more effective than an LED tends to just heat up the skin or heat up the surface, right? Whereas the laser will actually talk to your cells. And it has to be the right kind though, too. Because yes, red light spectrum is one place. There's also a green light. There's also a violet light spectrum that the laser can be in too. And LED tends to be just in that red light spectrum. So if you're not at the right nanometers, meaning the one that I'm using, the cold laser that helps to build tissue to make it grow, is set at the same frequency that is the life phase of a cell. So, you have your life, you have the cell that is born, it lives, it dies. That's, you regenerate. That's how things work, right? So this particular laser is set that life phase. So it always makes you biomodulate to your best living cellular self. And that's at 635 nanometers. Now, here, just as an example, there was a laser given to the Olympic Training Center that was in the 800 range. They were using it on a cyclist who had crashed and had road rash all over his leg from being on the track. And they used this laser thinking it was going to heal the skin like mine does. Well, this one, because of its frequency, actually ended up putting him in a state of sepsis because it makes bacteria grow rather than killing it. So unless you know what you're doing, that's why you don't go to Amazon to get a damn laser. Call me, please.
Don't get your lasers on Amazon.
Especially if like you were saying, if you don't know, is it a laser? Is it an LED? What frequency is it in? How should it be applied? That's the difference between LED and laser.
Okay. And with a typical treatment, like if you have an injury on the skin that you're trying to heal, is that just like whip the laser around on that for a few minutes, or like are you holding it on a spot, or like what does the actual treatment and treatment time look like?
Well, it depends on the kind of wound, and it depends on how acute or new it is. For example, I do a lot of pre-op and post-op. That's what I call it. So my pre-op is getting people's bodies ready for the stress of surgery. Like if you know you're getting double knee replacement surgery, it's going to suck. and your body's going to need a lot to heal. So that means you need to fortify it with a whole bunch of vitamins and a whole bunch of really good food and a whole bunch of stuff that will help to accelerate the healing process. Well, this laser will do that. And when, like, say you do get that surgery, it comes directly out, you can use the laser over the bandages. I like to get it directly over the scar tissue because it actually helps scar tissue from getting really keloidy and thick, and which is also a giant problem in the African American community. Keloids are a huge issue with scarring, and so to not be able to even have scarring happen in the first place, that's a win-win for everybody.
Right.
So how the application is used depends on the severity of the tissue recovery that's necessary. But bottom line is, you'd use it for a certain amount of time. If you came straight out of surgery, I would say every hour on the hour for 10 minutes is what I would do. And I give a laser for people to take home. So every hour on the hour that you're awake, get that laser on there. And then I do more stuff later when we can actually touch the wound and get in there and, have access to it. I'll put certain vitamins and salves and things on it, and then use the laser over that, and the laser helps it to drive deeper into the skin.
Absorb. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So it's called photophoresis. And so I do that besides, and then of course work with the diet and making sure you're getting all of your anti-inflammatory stuff too.
So does the laser, does it look like a pen, or is it like I'm imagining like a cash register checkout gun sort of a thing. Like, what does the laser look like?
No, it's like nothing that's here because I don't have it. Okay, so what it looks like is there's two diodes, and I have an older version of it, so mine is definitely like outdated as far as how cool it looks, but it still does the same thing, so I don't care. But it basically, one of them that they have kind of does look like your cell phone,
Okay.
and it has two diodes that come out the top of the cell phone, or of the laser. It's like a little square, right? And then they come out of there, and then there's another one that has four. So the four is what I have. Cool. And that's more effective because you can separate them to do work like on the brain and at like the extremity at the same time. So if you have a knee pain on the right, the left side of your brain makes your right leg work. So you want to integrate the neurology of those two things and create that neuroplasticity to tie them together so that they start working together and you don't re-injure it over and over again.
Excellent. Good description. Now, I've got kind of an off-the-wall question about the laser thing. A few years back, I was attending a mastermind session, and these people pointed out this doctor, and it's like, this guy is a genius. He's working with NASA to help prepare astronauts to be on Mars, and like really like high level science stuff. So I go over and I introduce myself, and he grabs me. He goes, "Give me your water," and he takes a pin thing, and he's like shining it in the water. Like, is that what you're talking? Is that the same technology that you're talking? He's like, now your water will be absorbed better because I exposed it to this laser technology. Is that the same thing, or is this something that he was just?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, it is another form of tech, and honestly, I won't know how to answer that question without knowing what frequency of laser he is.
Right.
I mean, it could be bullshit, I don't know, but it could have been really cool. I don't know. Yeah. I would need to know more of the frequency. Was it in the 800 range? Was it in the 630? However, I have seen that kind of work because your body is 70 to 80% water. So
exposing it to a certain frequency could help increase absorption of the way we absorb food and water then, right? Is that
right?
Does that make
because
sense?
You're affecting the cells in your body to do their metabolic processes better.
Interesting.
So the laser actually gets into the mitochondria of the cell, and the mitochondria is your energy source, right? And it creates ATP and electrons and all that kind of stuff. So that's the source that it starts to affect the most. So when you're affecting water, you're generally and essentially affecting your cells, because a laser will reflect and refract off of water, which is what gets it to get deeper into the tissue too. So by that there and of itself, he was using a very blanketed term of better absorption, but actually what's happening is like your cells just get to have better food. That's what it is.
That makes sense. Excellent. Now I find I've been waiting for years to ask that question to somebody, and finally Dr. Grace comes to save the day. Comes to save the day. All right. I've got a list of kind of hot button topics that my audience likes to discuss, and I would love to get your input on either natural solutions or tech solutions or ideas on how to impact these hot button topics. Obviously, with Million Pound Mission, let's start off with fat loss. Like, what do you have out there that maybe we aren't as aware of that we should be looking at from a natural supplement or a piece of technology or something that you think that we could use to improve fat loss results?
Fat loss. I think one of the things that's giantly missing in people's awareness with fat loss is stress and hormones. And everybody's trying to make sure that they get, the right macros and that you're eating properly, which you do need to do. Don't get me wrong. I'm not poo-pooing that. However, if you're all in the food box and not looking at the metabolism and metabolic box, you're just going to keep gaining that fat back over and over again, especially if you're not looking at the stress trigger factors. Because physiologically, I mean, the addiction forces behind a lot of the foods that you're eating, like the sugars, trans fats, excitotoxins, corn sugar, and GMO. Like all those need to be out of the diet first and foremost. If you're not looking at your labels and getting rid of trans fats, excitotoxins, corn sugar, and GMOs, and I'll say it one more time, trans fats, excitotoxins, corn sugar, and GMO, please stop eating them. Because if you do, your cells do not get the food that they need to actually help you to get your goals to be where they want to be. So that's first and foremost. The toxicity and the toxins in our food, that needs to go. But then beyond that, how stressed you are and how much cortisol is floating through your body has a giant impact on how well your fat management can be successful or a failure. Speaking as a woman, at a certain age now.
25. She's 25.
She's 25. Yeah. No, I'm proud of it. I just turned 49 my last birthday.
Amazing.
And I don't feel any different than I did when I was 25, 26, that kind of thing. I just eat a lot better foods now, and I can afford better wine.
There you go.
And it's about the balance. It's all about the balance. However, I had a majorly stressful event that occurred in my life with a business loss that just happened like 3 years ago. I'm now on the other side of it. But as it was happening, my stress levels were so high. Like my hair got thin. I was losing hair. I had really crazy changes to my menstrual cycle. I know you're a dude, but just deal with it. You've got a woman in your life. Listen for it. Yeah. And to the point where like it was almost incapacitating. I couldn't just be a normal person. It was just crazy. And so I looked into getting some help from a couple of friends of mine. One is a functional medicine doctor. She's actually an MD. And they created a website called Vital Health, VYTAL, Vital Health, and she does functional medicine and it's all telemedicine. And so and her business partner, is a pharmacist, and they left the hospital system because they were just completely disgusted with how things were being run and created their own business. And so he makes identical hormone creams, like bioidentical hormones, as well as like supplements and all kinds of stuff that they prescribe for people. But one of the things I was wondering about was, okay, like what are my hormones doing, and why is this having an impact on my body? Because I had gained weight too. I mean, granted, I didn't have my normal patterns of exercise and things either because I was so stressed out. But I had, a lot of like mostly belly fat, which is classic for cortisol too. And so I did a salivary test, and this is something that I think a lot of people are missing. Women and men both are, when you go into the medical system, when you go to your MD and he's like, hey, I want to check out more hormones. Well, or your thyroid too. They'll do like one or two tests, they'll do like a T4 test and you're like, oh, you're fine, but there are 5 different markers you want to look at for thyroid alone, and for hormones. You want to also check your cortisol levels too. So this particular test was a salivary test that you do. And I literally had 0 hormones left because I had so much cortisol, and cortisol is a hormone in its own right. I had so much that it was eating the constituents of my normal hormones so that it can make itself. And that was a game changer for me when I got all that. Like I started doing supplements to help decreasing the cortisol. I started to become more consistent with meditating every day, which I love to do anyway, but I was like, I had to get off the hamster wheel And I think that's a giant factor that is missing in the fat loss perspective and in like the fitness community in general. You got to look, it's not all about your energy drink, which will screw up your cortisol too, by the way, if you're doing a lot of that. It's not about your energy drink and how much creatine you get and all that stuff. If you're not looking at the metabolic aspect of this, you're missing a huge component.
Excellent. Now, if people are like, well, like, where do I go for a cortisol test? Is this like, where would you suggest going? Obviously, well, if they want to go to you, you do telemedicine, and like that's an option. We'll have all that info. Yeah. So, what if they're like, if they have a chiropractor, they've got a physical therapist, they've got an MD. Like, you go to your MD for like a checkup and be like, hey, I need this more in-depth test done that you're recommending. Is that who you go to, or would you recommend something else?
It depends. It depends a lot on the region you're in, and it depends a lot on how much of a voice you're able to have for yourself. Because sometimes when you go to your MD, you tell them, hey, I would love to do this test. You're like, hey, yeah, our labs don't do it. So if you're using your insurance and you're going in to get your blood drawn and doing that kind of thing, you're going to get the standard tests that they give you. And that's just, it is what it is. It's going to be what it's going to be. So yeah, you're going to have to pay out of pocket. And you're going to have to go into a place that will actually give you the real information that you need. And that's the unfortunate tentacle of our healthcare system right now, is that we don't embrace all of these things yet. It's happening little by little. The great resource, like I said, you can be anywhere in the country and you can call on me, or you can call on my friend, Dr. Tiffany at Vital Health. Those guys will direct you in the right place. But at the very least, talk to your chiropractor. If you do see somebody that's in the integrative and alternative health field, ask them to write you a prescription to bring to your MD, to ask your MD to do the tests. I do this all the time. Like, I sometimes will even call the lab or the MD for my patient, depending on, how open they are for me to do that. Generally, if they're seeing me, they're pretty open to do that. They'd rather have me call than do it themselves,
Yeah, that makes sense.
I have no problem with that. So, in California, it was a no-brainer. I mean, I was working hand in hand with one of the best OBGYNs, who was also a cosmetic surgeon in Beverly Hills. And I did nutrition for her in her office. And she and I were, we would bounce stuff off each other all the time. Because if you can get out of your own head as a doctor, you can be open to so much more that you may not have been thinking, because you're already on your if-then path, Right. And so should you be in a situation where you can get more of an integrative approach, that's how I would recommend doing it. Like have your guy write a script, or find somebody that will just do it for you right away. And then you don't have to go through it.
Excellent. Well, let's talk a little bit about joint pain. I just turned 40 last week, and that's something that
welcome to the club.
I've been hammering away at the weights for a few years, and like last winter I got real bad, like elbow tendonitis and things like that. And so for those of us that are in the 40 plus category, especially, and we're dealing with knees, back, hips, elbows, shoulders, like general inflammation, things like that. What kind of tricks do you have for us there, Dr. Grace?
Two things. One, looking at an anti-inflammatory diet. So you want to be alkalinizing more, and you want to be combining your food properly so that your digestion is better and your gut is functioning better. 70 to 80% of your immunology and your neurology is in your gut. So that means that how fast you can repair will increase exponentially when that is working better. So avoiding corn will be one of your number one things to do, because corn is like putting gasoline to the fire. And we're Midwesterners. I know you like your corn on the cob, but you cannot. and here's why. I'll just go with a little bit of science on you real quick.
Yeah.
You eat omega-3s, and you eat salmon to get omega-3s, right?
Yep.
So that you can repair and things work better. Okay. Omega-6s are the other side of that natural chain that happens in your body. Like if you cut yourself, omega-6s get triggered first to let your body know that there is something wrong. The omega-3s come in and decrease that inflammation. And when you're eating foods, you want to eat foods that are higher in omega-3s so that you're not constantly in a state of inflammation, right? corn, the biology of the plant, for every one omega-3 that there are 80 omega-6s. So it's literally like adding gasoline to the fire. For every one kernel of corn you eat, one piece of popcorn, you would have to eat 80 omega-3 pills to reverse what it's done. So if you're in a constant state of pain, get the corn out first and foremost. Second, for joints, you got to be flexible. I would recommend augmenting your workouts to have your strength training, which is necessary, with Pilates. I love Pilates because it gets your body out of gravity. I love yoga too, but I gravitate more towards Pilates because not only the machines that are used, but you're literally still using your body weight in ways that take you out of gravity and get the joint pain to go away, as well as improving your flexibility at the same time. The more flexible you are, the less joint pain you're going to have as we progress through time, is the way I like to say it.
Yes. I like that description.
Yes. And then, of course, something I alluded to earlier, hyperbaric oxygen therapy. Anytime you can get yourself into an environment that's oxygen rich, you're going to have less pain. You'll have less bad guys growing, being virus, bacterial, cancer. All of these things are definitely grow more in an oxygen depleted environment. So the more oxygen rich you are and the more alkaline you are, the less you'll have the pain and the bad guys growing.
Can you explain alkalinity just a little bit? Like, I'm a big fan, I'm a big believer in following an alkaline diet and like testing for alkalinity and making sure that like it just makes sense to me. But can you just talk a little bit about what it is and why it's important to be aware of your alkalinity?
Absolutely. Do you do pH test stripping or anything like that?
That's the only way I know how to test. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I didn't know that. That's awesome. So how alkalinity works and what it is pH. So this is like science 7th grade.
Damn it. I hated science in 7th grade.
Which is a long time ago for a lot of people. So just bear with me. I'll make it fun. I promise. So when you look at the pH scale, right? Okay. You have, it goes from 0 to 14. 0 is super acid. 14 is super base or alkaline. Super base.
It's all about the base.
Right. Okay. So right in the center, is number 7, and that's neutral, right? Okay. So foods are also able to be categorized by how acidic or basic or alkaline they are by an assay test that has been done a bazillion times over. So you can find charts that will actually give you listing of what foods are what. So here's the deal. There's 2 things about alkalinity. When you're looking at food combining, here's where things get a little interesting. So if you're eating meat and potatoes, right? Meat requires a lot of acid to be broken down in your stomach or body, okay? Whereas the potato, which is a starchy vegetable, or rice or pasta, like any of those starchy things like that, that requires a lot of alkaline or bile to break down. So you put in something that needs acid, you put in something that needs alkaline, you put them both together, now you're at 7 in the middle and nothing's breaking down because they're both just kind of sitting there, right? So when you're food combining, you want to make sure that you have your protein with like leafy greens, because then that will allow for the acid and the juices to actually break that down, and it'll go through your gut a lot better and it won't hang out in there. So that's one kind of acid alkaline. It's what your body needs physiologically to do things with. Now, as far as on the chart of going from 7 to 14, the sweet spot is between 8 and 9 for the salivary testing, especially, or the urine testing, because then that means that you have a more alkaline rich environment or an alkaline rich biome. And that means that bacteria can't grow as well. Viruses can't grow as well. Your inflammatory states are lower because, and by the way, sugar is pure acid. So when you're adding sugar into the diet, and that can be from, natural sources or alcohol, that's pure acid. So you are decreasing your alkaline stores as soon as you do that. So you have to balance it out with like apple cider vinegar or live probiotics, cultured vegetables. I'm a huge proponent for live probiotics. I don't take a probiotic pill. It's kind of like growing kale in your garden, right? And eating that piece of kale directly from the garden that's how that life works in it. It tastes really good. Well, now take that same leaf and put it in the freezer for a year. and then go eat it. And
Not as
okay.
fun.
Not as fun. Yeah. And you don't get the effects as much too. I mean, yeah, they'll be there, but it's not like you will when they're alive. So that's why I'm a huge proponent for getting your live probiotics too.
Excellent. And like things like cancer don't grow. Like, isn't cancer produced in a more acidic environment? Is that true? Okay.
Exactly. So as you alkalinize more, and this is what I do with my people who are surviving cancer, we change their diet first right away. Not only that, but you need a lot of liver support, because if you're going through chemo, you're basically being poisoned to death. Your body is getting a poison to kill this other thing that's dying, or wants to die, the tumor, right? That's what you want to kill. So if you're not giving your body what it needs to repair from the poison, you have that much more that you have to fight against when you're already in the fight of your life. So yes, giving yourself an alkaline rich environment will make definitely has an impact on being able to heal through that stuff.
So along those lines, let's keep going down the cancer prevention thought line here, because that's another thing that, people 40 plus are concerned with. And so if you were going to do a few core things in your anti-cancer, your cancer prevention regimen, what's that going to look like?
Again, it goes back down to label reading, always. Truly, one of the best things I ever heard. It was a phrase that I got when I was at the OTC, the Olympic Training Center. We had to go through these nutrition classes, and then we'd actually go into where the chefs were, and they'd show us how they make the food that we just learned about, and that kind of thing. Wow. Well, they gave us a quote from Jack LaLanne, who's one of the oldest old G's of fitness, right? Yep. And he said, "If God didn't make it, don't eat it." Well, he is still correct. If God didn't make it, don't eat it. A lot of the issues that we have with cancer, actually the big five in general, which is cancer, diabetes, heart disease, obesity, and one that's flaking me right now. But all of those are directly affected by your diet and can be reversed by your diet and very specific approach to your nutrients. So in regard to cancer, I would say, again, the no trans fats, excitotoxins, corn sugars, GMOs, you got to look at your labels and get them out. There was a 20-year retrospective study done. I learned about this through Candace Pert, who is an amazing scientist who was the first woman to discover what a peptide is. She's like one of my heroes. I should say, like the geek land I live in. I'm like, yay, science! So, she was talking about this study, and less than 5% of cancer is due to genetic causes. The rest is environmental toxins. So, if you are in a place where you're using, a lot of pesticides, like the gentleman who just sued the company he was working with in California because he had gotten cancer from using pesticides all day long, and won. He won against Monsanto. Oh my God, it's happening. It's real now. Like we're now in a place in science and in health and awareness that, you can't debunk what has been shown for over 20 years. Like that's the benchmark, well, if it's okay for 20 years, then maybe we can start looking at it as a real thing. Well, you can't unsee this anymore. We can't not recognize that it's not a real thing. It is a real thing. So for me, what I do with, my personal regimen is just to be as toxin free as possible. So that means grass-fed meat. It means pasture-raised animals. If any animal like meat at all that I have, the animal that I will have in my diet, they will only see one bad day, ever. That's the only way that I will ingest an animal product. If that guy saw one bad day, the rest of the time he was running around in a pasture with his friends, having fun and fine, doing what cows do. They have 4 stomachs for a reason, so that they can eat grass. Why are they being shoved full of corn? And literally shoved full of corn. Yeah. And then we're getting all that cortisol and all that stress and all those extra biomarkers that come through into you when you buy that steak, because it's $5 cheaper. Like people tell me like Whole Foods is so expensive. It's more expensive? Buying a lot of fucking prescriptions later because your body's not working for you anymore. Pardon me. But, it's true. I mean, a heart attack costs a lot. It does. And it doesn't cost that much to get real kale and a real grass-fed steak. I would much rather do that. So that's highest on my high form of awareness with cancer is look at your food, look at the labels, be conscious of what is earth conscious, it is body conscious, and if God didn't make it, don't eat it.
Beautiful advice, Dr. Grace. Wow. I mean, we're definitely going to have to schedule a second interview because I feel like we've just scratched the surface here. And I love just to dive into the nooks and crannies of all the knowledge you've acquired over your career. And people like you are just a huge resource to myself and my audience. So obviously you do telemedicine. That if people are like, yo, I need a doctor, and Dr. Grace sounds like the gal for me. First off, how do they get a hold of you to initiate that process?
Sure. You can get in touch with me through my website. It's sainrx.com, S as in Sam, AINRX, SunRx. I was inspired with that word because it's actually French for wholesome or healthy. And I was working with some clients who only spoke French and I didn't. So I'm like, how would I say that? What I like about it too, though, is in America, it looks like sane. And to me, it's a much more sane approach to looking at doing what you can to facilitate your body's natural abilities to do what it wants to do, which is be healthy, than to take a bunch of, drugs that have quote unquote side effects. They're actually direct effects. If anything says or death on it, why are you doing it? Why? That's not a side effect that I'm interested in seeing, So yeah, sorry, tangential there a little bit, but yes, sainrx.com is where you can find me. And then also, I am still concierge. So if anyone wanted to do for example, somewhere in Arizona, have a 5-day event and they get all the care that they want, you get me 100% on a concierge level. I do that too. I've worked with a lot of executives and celebrities and people like that. And we'll put together a 5 or 6 day, up to 2 weeks. We could do that as well. So it just depends on the level of commitment you want from me, and the level of commitment you'll get from me though is always going to be 1,000%.
Awesome. Well, Dr. Grace, I appreciate you. I really enjoy your energy. And now you're going to be putting out a podcast soon. It may or may not be released yet. If it is, I'll link it in the show notes. But what's it going to be called? I want to know what it's going to be called.
It's called Uncommon Medicine. And the un is in brackets because it's what's very common to me is very uncommon to many people. So I want to be the hub for people to come to that are looking for scientifically valid stuff that really, really works, that has been working for a long time, but it's just mostly unknown in the general mainstream awareness. So Uncommon Medicine.
All right. Keep an eye out for it. Podcast fans. Dr. Grace, thank you so much for your time with us here today.
Thanks, Adam. It's been great. Thanks so much.
All right, everybody, it's time to set those implementation alarms. What are you going to do in the next 24 hours? What did Dr. Grace say that lit your brain region up? And you're like, I got to take action on this. Set that implementation alarm. So for 24 hours from right now, you're going to take action on that step so that you can get out there and own it every meal, every workout, every day. I will see you on the next episode. It's giveaway week. Just a quick reminder that we are in fact giving away a free variety pack of Keto Bricks this week on the Million Pound Mission podcast. All you have to do to enter to win is screenshot a recent episode of the Million Pound Mission podcast, share it on your Instagram story, and tag my account at Million Pound Mission. Each day you can enter up to once, and up to 7 opportunities can be sent in to win that free variety pack of Keto Bricks. I appreciate you guys sharing it out, and good luck.